Okay, so we're gonna start just how to make the foundation chain. The foundation chain is basically, we need to create a row to begin crocheting our stitches into. And the foundation chain is not the typical crochet stitch that you're gonna be doing back and forth. What you see here, these are rows of half double crochet stitches. So the first row is kind of its own thing, and it's kind of a little special. So for those of you guys who are doing the tutorial for Institute Day, I've got some packs ready where the first row or so is done for you, just because this is going to be a little different from the rest of it. For those who have crocheted before, this will feel familiar. So using our tool, we're going to use our crochet hook and our yarn. And we're gonna either make a knot or a slip knot. When I first started crocheting, I honestly would just take it and tie a quick knot. Nothing too fancy. I would, take a knot and do like 2 loops. So you can certainly just do a knot if you prefer. What I typically do now is called a slip knot. And it's just a little bit more common with people who crochet typically. So you can totally just knot it up if that's more comfortable. To do a slip knot, you use 2 fingers and you go around and make an X in front. So 2 fingers around, make an X. You go underneath on the bottom, catch this back one and pull it through. So I'll do that one more time just in case. Like I said, you can totally just make a knot. So you're gonna take 2 fingers, holding the yarn. You're gonna go around the 2 fingers and create a little X. Go under here, catch this yarn and just kind of pull that through. And then just slide your fingers out. And that creates a little slip knot. However, if you would prefer just to knot it, you can definitely just knot it. Okay, so what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be crocheting that bottom row. Right, we gotta create what's called a foundation chain, and then we'll use that chain to then do our stitches. So we're gonna do what's called a chain stitch, which is where you pull over. So you yarn over, and then you're gonna just kind of pull through. So you yarn over the hook, kind of hold it down. I like to kind of grab here and hold down and just pull my hook through. So maybe just do a couple for practice. This is called a chain. And what you'll notice is we're making chains. So there's 1, 2, 3 that we've made so far. We're gonna keep going. You yarn over, and I like to kind of hold onto my string as I'm doing it and pull the hook through. So these are what's called chains, right? You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Our goal is to do 21 of these. And these 21, you can definitely do different amounts. The goal is to be able to, remember we're making a rectangle, the goal is to fit the circumference of your pot, but you can do more or less depending on if you have a different pot that you're using. So our goal is to do 21 of these chains. So far I've done 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna do it again. So yarn it over, you're gonna hold, that's 5. Yarn over, hold onto that, pull, that's 6. These are just called chains, so yarn over. I kind of go towards myself if you're thinking of it that way. 7, as long as you're consistent with which way you're crossing over. 8, you're all good. So this is kind of what it looks like. It almost looks like a braid, if you think about it that way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can see that it's just those kind of double loops around, and then keep going. So 9, 10, 11, right, we're gonna just go until 21, 12, this is typically how I like to hold it, 13, just kind of using my finger for tension, but you might find that you prefer to hold it more like this and do one at a time. So this is the kind of slower way to do it. Okay, so we're gonna double check how many we've made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So here we have our foundation chain. So visualizing what we've just done here, it's going to be the bottom, and then we're going to be doing the stitches all the way up to build out our cactus. So we've done 21, and now what we're going to do is the actual crochet stitches. So like I said, if you are new to crochet, I've got several little goodie bags with all the supplies, and some of them have the foundation chain as well as the first row done for you, just because it's different skills for each of these. So I wanted to make sure that for those of you who are new to crocheting, you could kind of focus on one concrete skill. If you have crocheted before and are good making chains, you can do it from scratch. But for those who are new, it's kind of nice just to have one concrete new skill. So what we're going to do next is in each of these loops, we're going to be doing what's called a half double stitch. So a half double crochet stitch, and first of all, where we're going to go, we can't go into this loop because notice if we go, our yarn is going to undo itself. So what they call that is when you do the stitches, you're going to go into the second chain from the hook. So you're skipping this chain because otherwise you're just going to undo yourself, and we're going into this one. So that's typically what directions will say, starting with the second chain from the hook. So to do a half double crochet, you're going to yarn over with your working yarn, the yarn that's connected to the ball. And I'm going to go into that hole. I'm going to yarn over and pull a loop of yarn through. So at this point, I've got 3 loops on my hook. And then the last step is you're going to yarn over one more time. And you're going to kind of hold down and you're going to turn and pull your hook through all 3. So that's what's called a half double crochet stitch. And if we look back at the rectangle, you can kind of see this is a row of half doubles, right? And you can kind of see, so there's 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4, there's 6 rows of these. So basically we just go back and forth 6 times, and that's what the stitches look like. And this first row is a little harder because we have to stitch into the little chain. Once we've got the first row done, it's way easier. So that's why I've got some prepared for those who are beginners with this first row already done. So let's just review how to do that half double crochet again. We yarn over, we go into that next little hole or loop, and then using the working yarn, we yarn over and pull through. I've got 3 loops on my hook now. We're going to yarn over, and to pull through all 3, I sometimes find it's helpful to kind of turn it and face the hook downwards. That way you're not catching it. So now we can see these 2 kind of little blobs are those stitches. They're called half double crochets. We're going to yarn over, go to the next loop, kind of through the hole. We're going to yarn over and pull it through the hole. So notice when we're doing that, we're connecting it to the chain. So that's how we're building on the chain. Then we're going to yarn over, turn it down, and pull through all 3. I find it helps if you notice where I'm using my thumb to kind of hold down an anchor. So far we've done 3 stitches. I'm just going to keep going. So I'll continue showing you those. So yarn over into the next loop, yarn over, pull through. You'll have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and turn it to pull through all 3. Sometimes what you'll find is you might catch it on the yarn. So I'll kind of show you an example. Let's say I try and go through this next loop. And let's say when I yarn over and pull through, let's say I notice how I'm catching the yarn. See how I've split this yarn here? And if I try and keep going, it's going to be all funky. If you do find that you loop it through a piece of yarn, what I find is easiest is you just kind of take your crochet hook out of that, and if you pull, it'll undo the work. So what's really nice with crocheting is if you just kind of pull your hook out, if you pull, it's going to undo all the work. So anytime you find that you have a mistake or you go in and pull a yarn funny, you can just undo it real quick. Okay, so I'll show you a couple more, and then I'm gonna pause the video and work all the way until the end. So one more time, half double crochet, you're gonna yarn over, you're gonna go into the next loop, and then you're gonna yarn over and pull it through that hole using that working yarn from our ball. You're gonna have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn it, and slowly pull through all 3. So now you can see our stitches, right? So there's, I'm just gonna pull it out to see it better. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, and you can also count, you can count with the bottoms or on the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The stitches you'll see kind of make a little V on the top. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause and continue until the very end. I'll unpause and show you what to do for that last stitch or so. Okay, so here I am. I'm just about at the end. You can see my stitches here. So I'm going to do another half double crochet. I've got, you can see 1, 2 more loops. So I'm going to yarn over, go into the first loop, yarn over and pull through a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and turn it and slowly pull through all 3. And then I'm also going to do that last one. You can kind of see that last hole's like right there. It's a little harder to see. So I'm going to do that last one. Yarn over, 3 loops, yarn over, and I'm just going to pull through all 3 of these loops. And so if you count through, and you can count using the top 2, I kind of like using these. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. The reason we have 20 and not 21, because we started with 21 loops. Remember, we couldn't go into that first one because otherwise it would undo our yarn. So typically if you want 20 stitches, when you first do your chain, you've got to do 1 more because you can't go into that last one or else the yarn will undo itself. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to do the second row. So what we do is, because you can only crochet if you're a righty like me from right to left, right, we're going to flip it. And we're just going to go backwards and we go back and forth. So what they say is you turn your work and you're going to go all the way until the end. Now, when I first started crocheting, I sometimes had trouble seeing the very end, so seeing this last stitch here that we are going to be hitting. So if you are worried about losing your end, that's what a stitch marker is sometimes useful for, or you can use just a paper clip. So I sometimes will like to put a little stitch marker on the very last one, because otherwise if you, when you're going back this way, if I stop a little early, your piece is going to start shrinking, and so it won't keep the same size as a rectangle. It'll start looking a little funky. So I just like doing that to make sure I don't miss the end. Okay, so from here to start, we're just going to be going backwards. So we're just going to go all the way back. And you can do this in 2 ways. Some people just go back straight through. Sometimes it helps to chain 1 to get a little taller, so you're kind of at the right height for a half double crochet. I do it either way, so you can either chain 1 and then go into the first space, or you can kind of just directly go into that space. Chaining 1 little loop to kind of get a little taller sometimes makes it a little bit easier for you, but either way works. So now that we are working onto the second row, we're not going into those little holes like on the foundation chain. So where we're going to be working instead of the holes, if you look at the top, we've got kind of those V's that represent the stitches. We're going to be working underneath. So you can kind of see, I'll use the hook to show you right underneath here. You want to make sure you're underneath both of those little loops. You can kind of see it from the side view. It's kind of these like holes on the side, but you always want to make sure that from the top you can see 2 loops to get that little V. So we'll do this row together. So we're going to do the same stitch, half double crochet, right? So we're going to yarn over first. We're going to go into like the hole, but you want to make sure that when you go under, right, notice I've got 2 little pieces of yarn there on the hook. So I'm going into my hole, right? I yarn over and pull through, that's attaching it to that stitch. I've got 3 loops on my hook, and then I'm going to yarn over and turn it